Okay, excellent. Well, good morning. I'm Maria Flores. Welcome to our session today of nutrition and mindset for swimmers and divers. And I have a special guest, Riley, today. She's going to be working with us and giving us a little bit of her experience, and Charlotte's going to be assisting. So please message Charlotte in case somebody like a friend of yours or a teammate can't get in. And so we'll try to get that going. Okay, so will you type in the chat swimmer or diver, please? Because I think most of you are swimmers. So I would really get to have a good example of how many are swimmers, how many are divers. Swimmer, swimmer, swimmer. Claudine, Kathy, swimmer, swimmer, swimmer. I can't hear you. Everybody, can everybody hear me okay? Yes, thank you. Okay, Franklin, swimmer, swimmer, mom, swimmer, swimmer, mom. Yes, okay. Swim mom. I know most of you are going to be moms. So let's get started. I'm going to dive right in. I'm going to have a very, very quick introduction because I know you all want to get all the good information on how to feed your kid. Okay, so let's go here. And welcome, like I said. So Rick from the College Swimming and Diving Recruiting Help asked me to support you guys, and I'm very excited to do that. I am actually a client of Rick. He's helped my daughter reach her dreams in college diving. And I've also helped a lot of Rick swimmers and divers up their game in nutrition and mindset. So it's just been wonderful. So welcome. And those of you who are trying to support your kid, congratulations. I know it takes a village to raise a top athlete and to help them stay happy within the whole environment of pressure and competitiveness and all the high goals that they have for themselves. So, congratulations to you, the parents, for also being so supportive and helping them. This is what I get to do. I'm an Olympic athlete. I was actually in the air. So, I'm not a swimmer. I'm not aquatic like your kids, but I was airborne. But I know what it is to train at that level and have that level of fatigue and exhaustion, and how important nutrition and mindset are for the youth athletes. I'm also a sports parent. I have 4 children. All 4 are or have been competitive athletes, and 2 of them are in sports, in college sports at this moment. And I get to go out to teams and clubs in addition to my one-on-one students, and I get to do that, and it's just a whole lot of fun. So this is my job, and it's just about the best job I could possibly ask for. So some athletes are frustrated because they know they can do better. Some have been doing really well, and then they have a performance plateau, and there could be a number of reasons. But sometimes they're just not using a really easy resource. So who here has their kid, obviously not you, a tech suit? Let's see the hands. Everyone, right? There's no way that you would compete without a tech suit. Okay, the tech suit is going to make you faster. And so depending on a lot of things, it could make you swim, maybe you'll do a half second faster, maybe a second if it's a long event. And so I want you to think of food as a tool as important as a tech suit. And that's how we can help them get in their mindset. The way you're eating, the way you're allowing yourself to have energy, and the way you can actually recover so you can train well Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, even that 11th session on Saturday, you can still train well and get the most out of it. Food is going to be super important to that. So even if you're fatigued, even if you give 100% mentally, but you're fatigued or you don't have any fuel left in the tank, the greatest athlete in the world won't do that much because your body will not respond. And I have 4 main secrets to leverage the power of nutrition. You can get faster, stronger, and also get sick less often and be able to train at your best through nutrition. We need to develop an invincible mindset and stop the little self-sabotage things that we sometimes do that get in the way. We need to train and eat for your body's needs. So I see a lot of copy paste, right? I'll do what my friend does or my cousin or someone else on my team. That's not necessarily what's going to work best for your body. And then we need to go to learn and apply one simple habit at a time. If any of you have ever done a New Year resolution focused around food and exercise, I'd like to see how many have ever done that too. Yeah? Okay, thank you. Most of us, right? So if we have a plan that's completely different from current situation, and all of a sudden we want to take out carbohydrates or take out bread and cereal, not ever have a drink, not ever do this, go to the gym at 5 in the morning every day, that's going to last like 2 weeks. And then you fall and you'll gravitate right back to zero. And then you'll be angry and upset because now on top of everything, you'll have the guilt and frustration of feeling like you failed. So rather than do that, why don't we learn one simple habit at a time? We do a 1% change. We do a 1% change. We do a 1% change. And so this is how, little by little, you start to realize it doesn't have to be that hard. So before Riley leaves, because she's got an activity to go to, I would like to, I'll be quiet for a second and let Riley tell a little bit about her experience in coaching and how she's been able to gain a lot more energy and train better, what that meant for her times, and how she feels now that she's going on a travel meet with the team, but she's got her whole nutrition planned out for the whole week. So thank you, Riley, for being here. You are a wonderful athlete. I love supporting you, and thanks for.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Um, my name's Riley. I'm 17. I'm a club swimmer, so I swim distance events, if anyone else swims distance. Um, in the beginning of the year, I switched club teams and my intensity and my training and everything just went up. So I really need to keep myself healthy. So working with Maria and fixing my nutrition has really helped me gain back a lot of energy, and it definitely does make a difference. So, Maria, do you mind if I share my screen? Okay. I have my first ever away meet coming up this week, and it's in LA. And my parents won't be there, so it'll just be me in LA. And I want to make sure that I have all my food down and everything ready for the meet, so I don't have to worry about not getting enough food or water while I'm in LA alone. So this was our process of how we found out where I could get food, what food do I need, and all that fun stuff. So I first found out where the hotel is and then where the pool is. And we went to Google Maps and we just mapped out the route from this is where my hotel is and this is where my pool is. And it's really, really simple. All we did was we just zoomed in, and around my hotel, we started looking at all the places nearby. And if you look closely, here it is. We found a Walmart supercenter and we found a bunch of grocery stores. And with all that, we just clicked on it, clicked on the name. Oops, sorry. We added a stop to get the address. We just copied and pasted the address into the next tab, and we went to the store website. So for example, this is the Walmart Supercenter that's right next to the hotel. I think it's like a 2-minute drive, 3-minute drive, which is perfect. So then we started going through what foods I would like to have while I'm at the hotel, what foods normally I have at meets, and seeing where I could get them while I'm in LA. So one thing that we talked about was having fresh salads. So we talked about making sure I have cheddar cheese, like little mozzarella balls, or shredded mozzarella, spinach. So whatever I needed. For example, for breakfast, I wanted some yogurt to have because I feel like that's a very easy breakfast, and I'm a distance swimmer, so breakfast is really important that I get all my food. So we just typed in yogurt, and here it is. And we decided, I think we were going to go with we wanted some Greek yogurt, and yeah, that was basically the process for that. So this is where I'm going all my grocery shopping and getting all my individual foods. So I'll get spinach, mozzarella, yogurt, granola, peanut butter clusters, everything like that. And then I know that my team, we like to go out and we have meals together after our swim meets and in between sessions. So I get DoorDash when I'm in LA. So I just went to DoorDash. I typed in my address to my hotel, and we just went through all the restaurants that are nearby, like 10-minute delivery, 40-minute delivery, really, really close. So for an example of what we did, we'd go to like healthy foods, and we would just let it load. We would just scroll around and see what's here, what sounds good, what's not gonna, upset my stomach right before I swim, but make sure I get all the protein I need. So one really great place I found was the Protein Lab. They do acai bowls, like smoothie bowls, which is really popular around here. It's pliables. But this is a local California-based company, and obviously it's a protein lab, so they have lots of protein and everything I'm gonna need. But it's also like a fun meal, so I know that me and my friends can just order while we're in a hotel room in between our sessions, like quick and easy food. So some other places that we found Jersey Mike's, which is great, so I can like eat a sandwich right before I swim the mile. Um, Blaze Pizza for dinner because Blaze Pizza is amazing. Here's Protein Lab again. And the last place I found was Kava. And we all know that Kava is really, really great for swim meets. It's great. Um, Here's a list of all the foods I have. I know you can't really see it, but I took this during our meeting. So here's all the foods I'm gonna get from Walmart. Here are the foods I'm going to pack. This is all my breakfast options. And then this is all the places that I'm gonna DoorDash from. So yeah, I think that's it. But mainly that's how I went into this process of finding food because again, I'm a distance swimmer and I really need to get all my food while I'm in LA and my parents won't be there. It's my first time doing an alone meet, so I really wanted to make sure that I felt comfortable with all like with my surroundings and making sure I knew where I could get food and everything. So yeah, thank you for listening.
No, excellent. Thank you. Does anybody want to ask Riley anything? Um, no, that's good. So I just want to point out that swimmers and athletes like Riley just really make my day. She is very coachable, very committed to her jobs. And I want to ask you something and just, have you ever felt that we're restraining you from like no eating any junk food or anything like that? Or how has the process been?
No, definitely not. I feel like I feel like you still allow me to get away with a lot. Like you're talking about Chex Mix the other day because another big thing that Marie and I talk about is how great trail mix is and making your own trail mix. And I was like, how about Chex Mix? Because I end up eating a lot of that. Um, but no, I guess one thing that I did notice is that we have on my phone, we started doing a food log where I log all my food every day and just logging in my food and watching like the Doritos, watching how that impacts how much salt I get and everything like that. I noticed that I actually just stopped eating it by myself. Like I can't really remember the last time I ate like a huge bag of chips besides Chex Mix, which is really really good. But it kind of just happened naturally for me where things kind of just started fading out. And I felt like that's the most important thing is not to be like, oh, you can't eat Doritos anymore, but to make sure that nothing is sudden, but to slowly just start moving away from it. And it kind of just happens once you start paying attention to what you're eating. And it's okay to have a Dorito every once in a while.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. Well, you've been amazing. So, Guthrie has a question for Riley. How soon before the distance event do you stop eating?
Oh, so um I like to say I have a stomach of steel. I can eat anything before a race and not throw up.
Yeah.
But I like to eat a good hour. Like an hour before I swim, I'll sit down on the bleachers in the pool on the pool deck and just eat like a half a sub, like a half a sub like that big ish. And I'll just eat it or I'll eat a sandwich or something like that. And every 10 minutes since then, I'll eat like a bar or a bit of bar, like half a bar, just making sure I keep on eating. Like every 10 or 20 minutes right before when I go up to the block, I like to get up to the block like a good 10 minutes before my race because I have a whole stretching routine and then I need to have a little dance party behind the block and I listen to music. So I have a whole routine behind the block. So I'll just put 2 bars in my pockets. I'll have little Gatorade energy chews and I'll have like an energy drink. So we talked about like Marie and I we talked about bringing Gatorade to or getting Gatorade in LA just to have like something to drink on. And I'll just eat however much I'm feeling. If I feel like I need a lot, then I'll eat a lot. But it really depends. But I always say I have a stomach of steel because I'm always eating before events, for long distance events. And then for hydration, because I know that's the second part of the question, I do I think it's called ID Life, Maria. I just ordered hydration packets
Okay.
and
Okay.
I just put them in my water and I drink that. I try to drink 2 bottles of water at a swim meet. and 2 bottles of water before I get on the block for any distance event because I feel like I get really thirsty during when I'm swimming for some reason. I don't know. And then I also use liquid IV too, which I think is a good one. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So congratulations. I love working with you. Your eyes look great. You don't look fatigued like the little dark circles we saw at the end of the school year. So you got that back on track. And I'm just sending you all the power and the blessings for your meet in California. I hope you drop a lot, especially in the 500 IM.
Thank you so
In the
much.
500 free, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
400 free. I'm sorry. We're in long course season, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks, guys. So that's somebody that I like to work with. And I guess right now probably 60% of my athletes are swimmers, just because that's kind of, my space where I hang out. I have swimmers at home. I'm doing what you guys do, right? You're on deck, you're volunteering, you're timing, you're in hospitality. I do that all the time. So it's kind of like, even though I was a gymnast myself, I married into swimming, and that's just now, for the last 12 years or so, it's been my natural habitat. So it's a lot of fun to help swimmers with their nutrition. All right, so let's go back to here. So did you realize when she said she does a little bit of this, she does a little bit of that? Okay, so we don't have a huge change because then it feels very stressful. And so we want to go little by little. But this is the importance of nutrition for our young athletes. First, they need to understand we need to cover our bases in terms of health and bodily functions. So, for example, if you have low calcium, your bones are going to suffer because the body is first using it for other things, right? Like muscle contraction. So the body is going to make sure that it uses the nutrients, the minerals, the vitamins that it has for main body functions first. And we'll cover that first. Then the athlete, and this is digestion, temperature regulation, all the millions of processes that are, the chemical processes that happen in your body every minute. So we need nutrition for that. That's what your young swimmer needs nutrition for. Then they need it for growth. Because unlike you and me, and I'm talking to the parents in this moment, unlike us, they're still growing. I mean, and I've had athletes that at 17 and 18 are still growing. So we need to support that. So they need additional nutrition for that. And then they did additional nutrition to support their training and their competition. So that's a lot, So that's why it's really, really interesting and wonderful that all of you guys are seeing how to up your game in that. So I'm going to cover a lot of things. And then we have a list of questions. I have about 7 or 8 parents who submitted some questions beforehand, and Charlotte's going to help us with those. But let me try to cover as much of that within the context of these slides. So the macronutrients, you all are familiar with them, right? PFC, proteins, fats, and carbs. And so it's kind of like a house, right? Everybody needs all three. Now you might need them in different proportion and at different times. Those numbers here are provided by the FDA. So for our athletes, I would not recommend for any of us a 10% caloric intake from protein. That's probably going to be way too low for our needs. Now, other people might be fine with that. And then there's a fat percentage and a carbohydrate percentage. And like I said, this is designed for the Gen Pop. Gen Pop means general population. This isn't necessarily for an athlete or a swimmer, but it's still a good baseline, right? So proteins are kind of like the structure of the house, right? The beams and the pillars and everything. Fats is like your electricity and plumbing. That's a good way to think of it metaphorically. And then the carbohydrates are the foundation. And carbs are going to be really, really important. That's why I get scared when people are starting to try to control or take out or reduce the carbs too much. Okay, we might be able to switch out a certain carb for another type, but we got to be careful when we have young athletes reducing their carbohydrate intake. So protein, right? I guess your kids are older than this, the young ones, when I'm with the little ones, they really like the Avengers, obviously the Incredible Hulk. So what we want with the protein is to repair cells, to make them stronger, and to support your bodily functions and your immunity. And so we're going to about 0.6 to 0.9 grams of protein per pound. And the 0.6 might even be on the low end. Typically with my one-on-one athletes, we go from 0.7 to 0.9. And if they're college athletes, we could even go 1 gram per pound. So if your athlete weighs 120 and you're estimating about, what if it was 1 pound, 1 gram per pound, that would be 120 grams. But it would be a little less if you're using your 0.7. And so this gives you a really good baseline. It doesn't mean they have to hit that every single day. And for God's sake, please don't stress if you don't hit it every single day. What we want is to have that on average or most of the time, maybe 5 or 6 days out of the week. And I always take the target number and we do a plus minus 10%. Okay. And we got our animal protein and we got our plant-based protein. And there are benefits to both. And there's research that cites all the diseases and all the problems that are derived from animal protein. And there's research and all these papers showing the benefits to health from animal protein. Okay, so we're not going to discuss that right now. There will never be a true answer. What I think is that we should definitely consider more plant-based protein because the typical American family is getting a lot of animal-based protein and not enough plant. So we can do a lot by raising it a little bit. We can get some chickpeas in there. I love edamame. I have had probably 100 kids in the last 5 years start to eat edamame if they weren't, and now they like it, right? And there's a process. I hated quinoa the first time I tried it. Heck, I hated brown rice the first time I tried it. I thought it was hard and disgusting. But the beauty is that the the taste buds change. Yeah, kind of got my everything mixed up here. And so as long as we're not putting pressure on the kid and they're not feeling that they're bad, there's a lot of good and bad around this. If they're not feeling pressured or being judged all the time and the options are there, you just make it available. And then if they don't like something, they try it. They don't like this recipe. They don't like the lentil soup. Maybe you try it in a month or two again. Okay, hey, how did you like it? How did you find that? Okay, maybe you use a different recipe next time. Or if you're having quinoa, you can have it warm, then you can have it cold, sprinkled on top of a salad. There's different ways to try each food. And so you'll find that as they're relaxed about it and they're starting to make the connection little by little, like Riley did. But when I eat this kind of thing, I feel really good and I can train better. And so then it's a positive way of bringing in healthy foods, right? Completely different from, oh my gosh, you eat so much junk food. I can't believe you're eating ice cream again, blah, blah, blah. That gets really tiring on a kid and it really doesn't make them want to change behavior. So it's kind of like having a different strategy, right? I'm a huge fan of eggs. For many people, if you do well and tolerate dairy, there's a huge amount of nutrition that you can get from dairy. So we really need to consider all the sources. Some people don't do well with dairy. Soy has a lot of advantages as well. So let's move on to fats. I want to keep going. We're going to have a portion for questions. Please don't fight the fats either, right? So they're important and we want to get to the healthier fats. So instead of, 6 cookies, maybe we can have a cookie, but we make sure that we're getting some sunflower seeds or adding a little bit of chia or definitely eating salmon, avocado, and nuts and seeds. Okay. A lot of people have nut allergies. Most people don't have seed allergies. So we can still do pumpkin seeds and all these other seeds and get the benefits of that. So let's bring that in. We can have some cottage cheese. We can have sour cream and we can make sure that we're getting enough fat because this is great for absorbing vitamins A, D, E, and K. And it's really good for satiety. So if any of you moms have kids that seem to never get hungry, they're probably having a lot of simple carbs. If there's no fiber there and no fat and not enough protein, they're not going to feel full. So we need to be strategic and use fats in a very strategic, smart way so that they feel good. They get enough nutrition and they're good and they don't have to be eating every 30 minutes. Right. And carbohydrate. This is what I told you, right? No carbs. Carbs are bad. I hear that. You see it in the movies and whatnot. Hey, a carb is just a carb. It's just a macronutrient, right? Like the other ones. So we need to learn which are the fast releasing and the slow releasing ones. And I think your question, Kay Guthrie, was centered around when do you stop eating and what do you eat? So a super important thing to learn is what do I eat before and when do I stop? And it'll depend on your stomach. If you have a stomach of steel, like she does, then you can eat right before. But if you don't, because a lot of my athletes don't feel good eating right before, that's when you get your jellies or you eat something super simple like 5 or 6 grapes or watermelon cubes. I have never had anybody tell me that they have a little bit of watermelon 10, 15 minutes before an event and that it makes them feel bad. Never. I've never heard that. Okay, so we need to find what are the things that you can eat even minutes before meet, or what is the thing that we can put in the drink to constantly give them that little boost that they want without it being too much, because then we don't want the sugar crash. But I find that sometimes we're not getting enough sugar. We're not getting enough carbohydrate to sustain a really long day in competition. So this is super interesting. These are some kids. They're my little girls' teammates, and so they're having their bananas and they're being super cute, until you're ready for your next event. And refined carbohydrates, this is just a way to explain, and I love doing this with teenagers. This is what happens to a grain. Okay, so the B vitamins and the antioxidants and the vitamin E and like 67% approximately, right? I'm kind of extrapolating the number of a whole grain. 67% of its nutrition is gone when the grain is processed. So then you got a white grain. And this is what you have your white bread coming from, the pancake mix, and all the things. So whenever you start to see whole grain on a label, it means it's really there. It's giving you fiber and vitamins and minerals and antioxidants on top of the carbohydrate. So ideally, we want to move more towards the whole grain, and it's a process. The first time I ate, it wasn't even whole grain; it was just whole wheat bread. I thought it tasted like cardboard. I thought it was horrible, right? Because I grew up on white bread. So then, once again, little by little, you can change these patterns. And so I just want to stop for a second and say, when I give advice in these workshops or in these webinars, it's not really quote unquote advice. This is for educational purposes. Okay. And so if you need to work with a sports dietitian, a doctor, or me, then we would create a specific program. Okay. But this is just for educational purposes. So that's my quick waiver. Okay. And a personalized plan would actually consider all of these things. Okay. Look at that. Are you trying to gain muscle mass or not? Are you trying to burn fat, or you're just trying to sustain your energy so you can train well? Which sport are you in? Are you a sprinter or a long distance or a mid distance swimmer? Where in the season are you? I mean, when you taper, you need a lot less calories than when you're training at your peak. So we need to really, really personalize the plan. Then genetics can be considered and special conditions, right? I think one of the moms asked me about allergies and sensitivity. So we'll cover that in a bit. And so here it is again, right? This is not meant to be your nutrition strategy, but those of you that want to take a picture or a screenshot, this is a good baseline. Okay. So in a meal, we want to get, if it's a snack, 10, maybe 10, 15 grams of protein. And if it's a full meal, 35, 40, even 45, depending on how big our athlete is and how much they're burning. And then you go to your fat, and then you go to your carbohydrate. So carbs are really important too, right? In a post-training meal, you want to get at least 50, perhaps when you've had a long practice. And then in a nice big meal, such as your lunch or your dinner, you're going to get a whole lot of carbohydrates if your athlete is training hard. So that's a good example. So let me go through some of these kids, and then I'll ask Charlotte to help. So this is actually a soccer player. Her name's Cameron, and her activity level was moderate to high. Okay. She needed about 2345 to 2875 calories. Can you see that it's pretty big, right? There's days that she trains way harder, days that she's less active. And we even went to her PFC. So 30% of her calories were coming from protein. We were on a high protein diet because she was trying to shed some fat. She was getting 20% carbohydrate, 20% fat, and 50% carbohydrate. So that was her strategy that we were using in order to create her meal plan. Then we have a gymnast, right? My original sport. She's an Olympian. Lucy was in the Tokyo Olympics, and now she's swimming in college Division I. And so even if you train 4 hours or more, just because you're maybe tiny and you're a gymnast, and gymnastics is a lot of stop and go, you see that her calorie level is not as high as others. Okay, so it's definitely a little bit different. Unfortunately, all the gymnastics and cheerleading clubs I've been to, they're shocked when they see that. They thought they needed to be around 1500, 1800 calories. And I'm like, no, you're probably under fueling. Unless you're 12 and like this big, you definitely are not going to be doing okay with 1600 calories. Okay, so we need to get the calories to the right level for all the three things I showed you in the pyramid that we need to cover for our kids. And then this one is anonymous. Okay, we'll call her Jane Doe. So this swimmer was 13, female, and she actually was anemic and underweight. Okay, so the iron levels were very, very low, and her activity level was intense. She was doing doubles most days in the week, super tired, always sleeping in the car, and she would actually sleep instead of eat. So the exhaustion was working against her because she would eat less. Okay, so we needed to build up her calories because she needed to recover, and very specific strategies for getting in the iron. Obviously, there was supplementation involved to support that, as well as the iron sources in the food. Okay, and we went to, so with an athlete like Jane, we're actually at night having a smoothie, and we're having banana pucks, and we're having all these different snacks. But in her pasta, we want a creamy sauce, right? For a lot of people, or I guess in general, we would want a sauce in our pasta that is not oily, right? When you are underweight and you need to recover, we need to bring in a lot of stuff. So it's different. Okay. This is the importance of really understanding each athlete's needs in that particular moment, in that particular situation, and also the hydration. I will not focus on hydration in this session. We can have one just on hydration, and I don't think we have the time, but hydration is also super important for all conditions. And then we have Brady. He went to College Park High School. He's now swimming in college division 2. And this was his meal plan, and he was aiming to build muscle. So we needed to do a lot of work. He was strength training, and we were getting in the right amount of macronutrients before and after practice to support the building of muscle. And he did great. You know, he was able to drop his time and actually had a really, really good senior year. So just close that. This is my son. This is Roberto Bonilla. He's a college division 1 swimmer. Of course, you can see the smile on my face, right? I'm so proud. And he is just exhausted the way they train. So there are days when he does get in 5,000 calories, and I don't even know if it's enough. Okay. Because for him, the activity level is called intense slash job, you know, kind of like a Navy SEAL or something. That's how much they're burning. And so he needs to eat 3 or 4 meals. There's usually 2 dinners involved, and have a lot of snacks, whether they're eating, drinking, or both. On a rest day, you know, if he's not training on Sunday, he's just hanging out, he's going to get up super late. You know, that's what they do. They recover on Sunday morning and they wake up at noon. So he's not going to have time to have that many meals, but he's going to eat, and then he's going to go to the sauna and maybe do homework, maybe go to church. That day, he's going to be around 2,500 calories, or maybe a little more, and it'll be okay. But then other days, he's burning his basal metabolic rate, and I'm sorry to say that word, but you know, is low. So he could survive with about 2,000, 2,200 calories. But if in each swim practice he burns between 11 and 1,200, plus he does weights training, plus he gets on the bicycle to move around campus, that's where you start to hit, and it starts to hike up to 5,000. Okay. So nutrition is personalized. All right. Don't go out and do like a copy paste of somebody else, and definitely not what the influencers are doing and saying on Instagram. I mean, take some ideas, but don't grab that as your own personal plan. Okay. And this is Mireya. So she's diving, and actually Rick, her advisor and ACC recruits, supported us and helped her get a scholarship. And she's diving. She's going to be a junior now in college, and she does not have a thin body, and she has, like, you know, a lot of times she'll be bloated and whatnot. So we have to be careful with her food. All right. There are things that she shouldn't eat. So you have to help your kids be very observant. They have to listen to their bodies, just like we should do it as adults. We can teach our kids to listen to their bodies too. And they can figure out, well, what works best for me and what doesn't work that well for me. And so with her as a diver, she needs to work on her explosiveness, right? And she needs to build the lean muscle, and she has to be aware of the food sensitivities as well. So this is her caloric intake, her meals, and how it's broken down in meals and snacks. Okay. So this is an example of how you go working. And if you happen to have an athlete, typically 16-year-old girls, does anybody have a 16-year-old girl in this audience? 16 or 17. All right. Let's assume. I think Charlotte is one of them herself. Yeah, Kathy, you have one? Okay. What happens when they turn 16? What's a big milestone? They're driving, right? So now they're independent. So they're not sitting there waiting for mom or dad to drive them. And I always see weight loss It's very common. That transition, when they start to drive, they forget to eat or they think that they're going to survive on a Starbucks Frappuccino. And that's going to be their food for like an 8-hour window. Or they have a salad because they're used to thinking salads are healthy. And so they're having a 250 calorie lunch when they needed 800 to sustain swim practice later on. Okay, so it's a little bit of confusion here and not really paying attention to calories because I feel so wonderful. I'm driving, I have freedom, I listen to that music in the car, and that's wonderful. That's a wonderful stage in life. But then you can't train well. And then you're getting sick, and a month later, you're getting the flu, and then a month later, this and this because your body can't even support itself with its immunity. So these are really, really interesting things to work on and to think about. Okay. Maybe a salad isn't best. Maybe you needed a burger and that would have worked better for you in the moment. Okay. And then we can learn to have healthier burgers. There's a healthier version of a burger. There's a healthier version of pizza, right? We don't have to go to the worst quality one, so to speak. So this is an example. I'm going to run through it super quick because we make a list of proteins when we're doing our workshops with athletes. We make a list of carbohydrate foods and I teach them what's the simple and what's the complex or what's the fast absorbing and the slow releasing. And then we pick fats. And once we're able to do that, this is on the athlete's workbook, right? We create. So what would you have for breakfast? Okay. So pick a protein. Okay. I'm going to pick milk and blah, blah, and eggs. Okay. How much? Well, I ask them, right? Your age, your calories, your height. Okay. Well, 3 eggs for you. One egg ain't going to cut it. So we try to see, well, I don't know if I can eat 3. Okay. Let's try to get 2. And then we complement it with something else. And then we pick a fat. So it could be butter, right? And the toast, for example. So we got a carbohydrate and we got butter. And so we got PFC in the breakfast. We can also do it with oatmeal. We can also do it with pancakes. So there's a lot of ways that they could eat a healthy breakfast. The same thing with the snacks. And then the following session, we go to lunch. Okay, what are you going to have for lunch? Is it cooked at home? Do you prepare it? Does mom prepare it? Or is it cafeteria food? Well, whatever it is, let's have a plan. So it's wonderful because now they're not winging it. One of the questions from the parents, right, Charlotte, was nutrient timing. Yeah. Okay. So this is actually embedded here. It's not just what you eat and how much and if it's organic or not, it's when you eat it. So I'm going to cover this very, very briefly and just kind of give you some pointers. Okay. Nutrient timing. You got your pre-workout fueling, you got your intra or during, and you got your post-workout fueling. So if you have a full 3 hours or 2.5 hours, you can eat a full PFC meal. So that would be your protein, whether it's tofu or chicken or beef or turkey, whatever it is that you're having as your protein, your carbohydrate, your rice, your beans, your lentils and whatnot. And then you would have and obviously within the carbohydrate, veggies, right? Try to get as many veggies as you can in there, and your fat. So the fat could be in the meat, right? Because the meats are a combination food. They got fat, or it could be a little bit of olive oil, or it could be half an avocado, or it could be some walnuts with the meal and whatnot. 1 hour before, you want a snack that's high in carb, low in protein, and low in fiber. Why do we want that? Anybody have an idea why we want to go low in fiber? Everybody says fiber is good for you. Why do we want to go low in fiber? Any comments there? Anyone care to venture a guess? Fiber slows down the absorption process. And it might make you want to go to the bathroom when you're going to go swim for 2 hours. Okay. So if it's close to when you're going to train, we don't want that much fiber. That's not the moment for fiber. Okay. And that's fine. You can have low fiber. Some people prefer not to have any fiber. Okay. And then a little bit of protein as well. But you want something that's going to release the energy and allow you to have a good practice. And then during, we need easy carb replenishment. If they are training intensely for over an hour, definitely if it's over 90 minutes, we need some carb. So everyone's fighting Gatorade because it's sugary. Sometimes we need sugar. Sometimes we need to fuel the last portion of practice so we can get a healthier drink, right? And then you reach out to me and we have these conversations. There are different versions of sports drinks, but if you're not going to stop and have a few berries or watermelon in the middle of practice, which almost nobody does, you're going to have to drink that, right? And you're going to be probably benefiting from some electrolytes in there as well. So we need easy carb replenishment during practice too. And now let's move to after. This is what everybody likes. That's what everybody has. So after training, you want a P meal, PC. That means protein, carbohydrate. And this is the anabolic window. Okay. It sounds very scientific. It's not. Okay. It just means there's a window for when you're ripe to rebuild and repair those muscles. So that window is the one we're going to get it. And it's going to be 30 to 60 minutes after training. So don't go home, take a shower, get ready, do this, call a friend, get on your social media and have dinner an hour and a half later. You missed the window. Okay. This is how we need to do. So that's why maybe even a chocolate milk or a drink in the car is better than nothing if you don't have the meal readily right afterwards. But you can also have a sandwich. You can also have some yogurt and granola. You could also have some pita chips and hummus, right? There are ways that you can get your P, your protein, and C, carbohydrate right after practice. So you want to speed up the recovery of the glycogen storages and you want to promote muscle repair and growth. All right. And this is what works for most athletes. 30 to 60 minutes after training, if you're doing cardio, you would want something with a 2-to-1 ratio, 2 grams of carb per 1 gram of protein. And if you're doing intense long duration, around 3-to-1. So I'm fine. Anything between 2 and 3. Okay, so chocolate milk, the example again, right? We saw the Michael Phelps commercials with chocolate milk. 2.2 grams of carbohydrate per 1 gram of protein. So that's why it's like easy solution, right? All right. Now, if you start to get too much sugar overall for your athlete because you're having chocolate milk left and right, then we got to have a conversation too. Okay. But this is something that you got to think about because this is going to promote your best recovery after training. So these are the 4 secrets, right? Leverage the power of nutrition. Develop an invincible mindset. It's not that hard, especially if you're open to making changes and to stop, some of the bad habits that you might have and change them, right? Eat and train for your unique needs and stress-free, healthy eating, which is what Riley showed you. Okay, I just wanted to check the content. And I have one trivia question. How long does it take to form a new habit? Type it in the chat. Does it take a day, an hour? How long does it take to form a new habit? Let's see what y'all are saying. So your brain is creating new wave paths. Let me see, admit all. Oh my gosh, there were people in the waiting room. I am so sorry. 21 days, 3 weeks, 3 weeks, 40 days. Okay, awesome. Potentially, it could take 40 days, it could take 3 weeks and whatnot. So that's a trick question, right? The answer is how many times does it take to form a new habit? And usually it's the number of repetitions that make this pathway on the right, which is very weak, start to create those connections between neurons, and then it starts to become a stronger pathway. And as you stop doing other things, then the strong pathway can become weaker. And so sometimes you need to be very diligent about pushing yourself and having some of that willpower. But the great news is that it gets easier later. It starts to get really, really. And these are examples that I just want to share with you quickly and then go over to our quick pause. So if you're eating Cheetos, that has a lot of inflammatory qualities and it doesn't help you that much in a number of ways. And it doesn't give you a lot of protein that you might need. And it's fast releasing carbohydrate that is not going to give you slow releasing energy. So maybe switch to a better version of chips, but still have chips. And then eventually you might do your home baked chips. Okay, that's a simple example. So we want to, better, great. Better, great. And as long as we move 1% to the right on the spectrum of better, and great, you're doing wonderful. Okay, it's not as hard because you're not stressing about it. People have asked me about Chick-fil-A. If you're going 3 times a week, maybe you can start going twice. Okay, that's your first step. And then eventually you can go once. And then when you go, you could get a chicken sandwich one day, and then you could get, a Cobb salad the next, which actually has bits of chicken in it, and it's really good. Okay, so I go to Chick-fil-A sometimes. So before I go to gut health, inflammation, DNA-based nutrition, and limiting or empowering beliefs, um, this is what I would like to do and just show you this. Charlotte, will you please post some of these links in the chat? The website is The Powerful Athlete. There's a blog that's just starting out, and you can download a guide called What to Eat During Travel Meets. You just click right there and you download it, or you can book a session. And then the TikTok and Instagram are at Maria the Powerful Athlete. If you prefer to email, that's what you can do. So let me be quiet for a bit and see if any.
Okay, so the first question is from Carrie, and she asks, I have a 17-year-old swimmer who trains very hard and eats an overall good diet. She does not have any food issues and will eat when she's hungry and can eat a lot, but lately she's not really had an appetite and is training at the same level she always has. She has said sometimes that she isn't as hungry, and I'm just worried she's not getting the fuel she needs with her training and has a lack of appetite. I do not want to force her to eat, but I can glad she's recognizing her cues. But how do I get enough calories and protein into her? Oh, unmute, please. You're still muted.
Am I muted? So I was saying all these ideas to myself. So she might have a low appetite genetically speaking. So if her appetite genes are not that strong, then we got to do stuff. We got to incite her to want to eat, right? So you got to have stuff that really tastes good at particular moments. If you're baking or cooking something, she's walking in the door just as that is coming out of the oven. And we got to find things that taste really good and that look good, right? So we need to involve all the senses. Sometimes exercise curbs the appetite. Okay, there are certain processes in the body. And so a lot of us that work in sports nutrition have seen that. It's not always, well, they're training more and, the appetite increases. That's very common, but it doesn't always happen. And you are doing great by not wanting to force her. Okay, but you need to kind of sit down and see what can we do? What are things that you can tolerate better? And you might need to eat fairly often. Because if you're not hungry, you might need to eat small things, use a lot of beverages, of course, and maybe have some soups and have a lot of highly dense, nutritious foods so that what you're eating is giving you a lot of nutrition. But do not force her. And after the first thing to do is don't get anxious about it because that'll just make it harder, right? And feel free to reach out or connect if you want to talk about it more. Any other questions, Charlotte?
Yes, so Kristen is asking that his son has like big questions around nutrient timing and more specifically when nutrient timing matters. We went over this, but he also wants to know with a swim workout and like lifting sessions and like cross training.
Thank you. Well, that's pretty similar to the little bit that I covered. I know it's a high level presentation because obviously this is not a 12-week workshop. It's a 1 hour webinar, but a lot of athletes are doing a lot of strength training and some are doing multiple sports. So we need to get in as much as we can. We're going to have to supplement at some point, but teach them that supplementing is the cherry on top. It's not instead of food. Okay. So sometimes we need to make a little bit of an effort, wake up 10 minutes earlier, because if we're going to be able to eat or drink something that's hefty, thanks to those 10 minutes, then we need to be able to change that habit and be open to doing that. A lot of snacking, like I said, this is where you want to get potentially, less junk food and more food that's really conducive to your nutrition. But some of the junk food is fine, right? It's okay. We're going to have maybe, or we're going to want to have some fries and nachos and some desserts and whatnot, as long as we have it balanced. They can be super tired, and I would also check their bedtime. Even 30 minutes of going to bed earlier can support them to sustain the hard training that they're doing.
And then she also wants to know if there's foods that are other than like creamy, mushy, or slippery that he can take because he has like sensory issues and stuff.
Mhm. I'm not too sure about that. There are specialists that have, that specialize in like food, from a psychological standpoint. So I'm not sure about the sensory things. I've worked with a lot of athletes in the terms of sensitivities, like things that make you feel bloated and whatnot. But that's something to definitely consult with the specialists.
Okay, and then Simona has a question. She's asking, my swimmer is asking what the best snack is to have immediately after an intense 2-hour practice, which I guess you stated was chocolate milk, and then other things. But then she also wants to know if like a Chick-fil-A sandwich is okay.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Charlotte. Well, there's no such thing as the best, right? There's going to be 10 great things that you can have. You can have a turkey sandwich. You can have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Even if it has some fat in it, it's going to be fine. I would definitely go for Chick-fil-A if that means it's, if it's not eating or Chick-fil-A, I would get the Chick-fil-A for sure, right? If that's the only thing that's available. And like I said, even at Chick-fil-A, there's better options. I've had athletes at U of H in track and field. They take them to Chick-fil-A because that's where the college has a sponsorship. So they have a lot of dollars to spend at Chick-fil-A. So even if you don't want to, that's where you're going to be going. So there are different things on the menu that you can be getting, right? You could get the kale chips, for example. There is a yogurt. You can get the grilled chicken sandwich. I don't like it. I don't think it tastes that good. So if I'm at Chick-fil-A, I usually just have the regular chicken sandwich, but I go to Chick-fil-A twice or three times a year. If you're going all the time, you might want to start getting the grilled or the Cobb salad, like I said. So even within these restaurants, there are better choices to make. What we did with Riley was, as you saw, she's got a plan where she's going to go to Jimmy John's or Subway. So you're choosing the healthier bread once you're there, and you're adding some avocado to your sandwich and whatnot. So you can do all these little tweaks while still going to certain restaurants.
Okay, then we have another question, and it's asking what is a good energy drink, and then specifically for a 13-year-old girl.
Oh, wow. I'm not that huge a fan of energy drinks, but a lot of them are also, I would say, quite innocent. I know Celsius is very popular. I know there are energy drinks that are popular. Feel free to contact me and I'll share with you like what I have with my family, for example, if you feel that that would be valuable. Usually, we want to make sure it doesn't have too much caffeine. So if you have a drink going around 150 or 200 milligrams of caffeine, that's a lot for a 13-year-old. Okay. And remember that this is going to sound confusing, but caffeine does not give you energy per se in a literal sense. Okay. Caffeine blocks the neurotransmitters that are sending you the message that you're fatigued, but it doesn't give energy. What gives energy is food and how it gets into the cells. And then you produce, and its energy is measured by the ATP process. So you guys saw that in science class. Okay, so food is what gives us energy. And then there are other things that can cause some stimulation or the lack of feeling tired. So the best thing you can do is eat really well. And if you need a little bit of sugar, have some orange juice, for example. Okay, but if you want like specific energy drinks, I'd rather do that in a one-on-one setting. Okay.
Okay, then we also have a question that's asking, should a 14-year-old boy swimmer be taking magnesium supplements for muscle benefits?
If he's low on magnesium, yes. If he's not low on magnesium, no. Like more magnesium, if you're getting the right amount, it's not going to help you more. So we would definitely need to check that. Like, directly, I guess, in a one-on-one setting. There are many benefits to magnesium, both for muscle repair. It's involved in about 300 different reactions in the body. A lot of people take it for better sleep, but if you are low on magnesium, then we would need to take it as a supplement. Okay. So let me go to the gut real quick. Thanks, Charlotte. As long as you can heal your gut, you're probably going to have a lot of benefits because a healthy gut means better digestion, better cognitive function. You absorb the nutrients in the food better, and your immune system is better. So this is my daughter, Isabel. We actually were able to heal her autoimmune disease, lupus, through food. What we did in her eating strategy was instrumental in getting this. She got this as a 14-year-old. And I'm not going to share with you right now the nightmare that was. We're really happy that she's learned how to eat differently. and a very, very big component of her healing process was food. Okay, this picture here and this one here, that is the reaction to the high dose of steroids that she was taking. Okay, she wasn't fat, she was just completely inflamed from the medication. So sometimes you need medication, and I'm grateful that we have it when we need it. But a lot of the things that you can do to repair your body's immunity is eat in a different way and have certain lifestyle habits that will promote your body's own healing processes. Okay. And this is inflammation. So we need to fight chronic inflammation, the one on the right, not the regular recovery process of the body. We need to fight chronic inflammation. That's going to be super important when we are trying to obviously avoid disease, or, make sure that we don't get something that's going to be hurting us in the future, 20, 25 years later, and to train better. Yeah, let me go back to the muting. So let's take a pause here. You might want to take a picture of this. All of these are anti-inflammatory foods. Your salmon, right? Look at that bowl, those bowls on the left. Extra virgin olive oil. And I'd just like to make a quick note here. I was buying tart cherry juice for my son 2-3 years ago, telling him that Olympians are using that instead of Advil and whatnot as an anti-inflammatory element. And he was just leaving it in the fridge, didn't really drink it. So then he starts to train at Texas A&M, and they're giving him tart cherry juice, and he sends me the picture. I was like, so now you're drinking it, right? And it happens, right? Sometimes they don't listen to mom and dad. They need to listen to someone else. That happens with your kid. Don't worry. It's very common. And then finally, DNA-based nutrition. So remember that the third element that we talked about in my secrets is eat, train, and rest for your body's unique needs. And this could mean not only your body's unique needs, but your family's needs. Some people just don't eat too much at home because of their schedule. So they need to know what to buy, how to cook, how to unfreeze something in 7 minutes, and what things to buy if they are eating out. Okay, so it's your own personal diet, your own personal journey. These are my twins. The left is when they were 8, 9 months old, and the right was when they were 17 years old. Okay, so even identical twins need to understand and get a good feel for their body, because identical twins, not fraternal, identical twins do have the same DNA, but they still need to learn to listen to their body, because they would have different likes and dislikes. When we're checking your DNA, if any of you are open to doing that, you can see this is Popovici on the left, an amazing sprinter. And so you might actually be more inclined to do better at sprinting, middle distance, or long distance events based on the muscle fiber in your body. So if you can actually go one step further to listening to your body and working a strategy with your coach and understand your own genetic predisposition, that'll give you yet another edge. For me, training 33 hours a week when I was 15, 16, and 17, I have very slow recovery, genetically speaking. So I would have done better as an athlete to train less. Would have probably been able to cut down 20%. I would have performed better. We did not know that. Okay, this wasn't available back then when I was a gymnast, but this is me. I have the slowest recovery. Okay, so I'm going to take a pause now. This is the appetite that we talked about, and I'm going to go back to questions because we're on the hour right as we speak. So open it up to questions. Any of you, is there anything else I can help you with right now? Muted myself again. All right. Thank you so much. You have my email, you have my website. I look forward to connecting with you soon. Have a blessed day. And once again, congratulations for being wonderful, supportive parents of your kids. I wish you the best. Thank you.
We still have one question.
Creatine? Let me go to creatine super quick. So creatine has actually been studied a lot. And creatine, just as magnesium, just as curcuma, I forgot how to say curcuma in English. Creatine is really good, and it can be very helpful. what you need to look at is the company that is doing their creatine mix. What they're doing. Is it the highest quality creatine, and what are they blending it with? So that's what you need to take a look at. Okay. We could do a whole session on supplements and some supplements advice. There are companies that give you a high quality supplement that has creatine, and others that it's not that as good as the other one. And there are companies that potentially are using banned substances in their supplements. And if you have kid athletes that are training, that are competing potentially internationally and whatnot, then we need to be super careful about what we're putting in their bodies. So there are certain companies that have third-party companies come in and do a check, and they take samples from each batch and they validate that there are no banned substances in that. So as you're choosing your supplements, it's not just about what's the most popular thing on Amazon or Google reviews. As athletes, we definitely need to pay attention to banned substances. Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys. You're welcome. I enjoyed being with you. Thank you, Claudine, Tammy, and everybody. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Charlotte, for helping me. Appreciate you. Bye.